This is Joe Cole.
This is Ruben loftus-cheek, and you're listening to the London is Blue podcast.
All right. Well, hey, before we jump into the episode, we just want to take a moment. A huge shout out to massive friend of the pod, Eric, who just got married yesterday. And not only is it exciting for that, but like Nick, us and Eric go way back. I mean, he was on the OG trip.
Man,
the memories we have with him are amazing. So we had to give him a huge shout out.
Yeah, he's been a rock of the community for a long time and a huge supporter of us. And I mean, went as far as to wear one of our badges on his wedding suit, which is insane. I can't believe his wife let him do that. And he walked out to blue as the color, which is fantastic.
Come on.
I mean, just an all-time G move from Eric. But look, man, we're so excited for you and for your new family that you're developing. And Dan, I think having gone through this yourself, you kind of understand where Eric is now. So maybe give the man a bit of advice, huh?
Well, I think the biggest, he's already on solid footing because he decided not to wear the wizard-esque Chelsea outfit that he displayed in London on his wedding day. So, to be fair, I don't think he needs any more advice. I think he's got it. Congratulations, Eric, to you and yours. Very glad to see you get this one across the line. Your best transfer deadline day ever.
Anyways, massive congrats, not only from us, but the entire family and community out there. Eric and Yaz, may you have a wonderful life together forever and ever, and make it blue. All right, on to the pod. All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode of the London is Blue podcast. As always, your host, Brandon, Joe, my co-host, Nick and Dan. Gentlemen, this is the Brentford match review. Cue the bee jokes, cue the beehive, the honey, the everything. I mean, look, I don't know where this is going to go, Dan, because if we can't even get through a honey conversation with Joe Tweeds, I don't know how we're getting through a match review with Joe Tweeds.
Look, we've done it before. There's proof positive that we can cross the line here, even as we diverge into maybe non-footballing related topics, Nick. So I think in general, we're going to be okay.
I will tell you,
right through it.
Sometimes you learn about football on this podcast. Sometimes you learn about the levels of honey that exist in the world. Joe brings a lot of stuff to this show, and those are two things that could happen on this one. Two.
Well, here he is, the honey connoisseur himself,
the
Joe
honey
Tweeds,
connoisseur.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that's probably the worst intro I think I've ever had on a podcast when it comes to football. So, but yeah, I do apologise that I've been boring the guys about the benefits of Manuka honey for the past 20 minutes. So, yeah, that's probably fully warranted at this point.
Joe, don't worry. Just be yourself,
I just feel like it needs to be better than that.
Let's go.
He's overachieving on his expected sweetness.
Oh, no.
Anyways, this is not where I wanted to go. Much different moods, though, than compared to yesterday when the match concluded. So it'll be interesting to hear how this one goes. But look, we're going to be touching about how Brentford made life difficult for Tuchel and company. Then we're going to talk about the new heroes emerging or resurfacing. And then lastly, 15 minutes of madness and the magic of Edouard Mendy. So to kick it off, to get a little taste of where everyone's at, 3-word match reviews, Dan.
Well, there were a lot that were Mendy related or B-pun related, and so I tried to collate as much as possible here. We had Mr. Thurman with Edouard motherfucking Mendy, just to start it off, to set the stage. Ghana Zagina with Hot Honey Mendy, referencing our Brentford preview.
Nice
Dan McArdle with the Mendy saves behinds. Derek KJ with the only Dave's worthy, and it's the photo of him tying Mendy's boots, or relacing as well. The blue to full game with famous last words and the photo of Paul Scholes after his debacle of an interview.
Bad beat.
Or fan forum. We had Motor Mount with the chili con queso, Bert Cubed with the It's Sarr Right, Josh with A Sar's Born. We had Glenn Coco with the Chalaba Fight Club, our friend Rick Glanville with Medieval Siege Repelled, and then Tana overall with the Fuck Long Throw-ins.
Amen.
There you go. Round it out. A lot of conversation there. A lot of vulgarity. A lot of people upset. But we won, so you gotta find positive ones.
Stoke are back, ladies and gentlemen. What the hell was that? Our 3-word match reviews. I had young backline survives. What was the average age of that back line? About 17 and a half? They struggled, and that's okay. Thankfully, we got through it, but there was definitely levels. I mean, Sarr's 20, 21, Chalobah's 19, Christensen's maybe 24.
No, Chalobah's 22, yeah? Yeah, that's older than you think. It's probably like 22 and a half.
19 and a half. We'll call it even. Hey, no, young backline for sure. And they looked like it, but we got through it. Dan, what about you?
I went with credentials pressure tested.
Okay. Credentials for
the title.
Just want to make sure we're on the same page there. Appreciate that. Nick, what about you?
Dominance into goals. We will talk about how we need to do that.
Did you see that today?
And not do the other thing that we did.
Tweeds, lastly with you.
Yeah, I went with Mendy, the Magnificent. Sort of a nod to his sort of magical display. But yeah, he was absolutely outrageous yesterday. Really, really fantastic performance from him.
So good. Excited to expand more on that. But real quick, we do want to thank these 3 people, Dan, for their 5-star Apple review.
That's right. Greg Miller, 919, MHL Pete, and then Omaha Cards fan, all leaving wonderful 5-star reviews in Apple Podcasts. If you haven't done it yet, this is a good opportunity to go into that app, hit a 5-star, little review there, talk about Honey, talk about how you love, what we do here, and help other Chelsea supporters find this podcast. So great, do that, and we should talk about the match now.
Shout out to Omaha. What's up?
All right, let's do it. It was Brentford this past Saturday, the 16th of October in the Premier League at the Brentford Community Stadium. And in case you missed it, the scoreline, Brentford 0, Chelsea 1. So we're going to go ahead and throw it to the Chelsea Fifth stand-up. Thank you for letting us use your audio to recap what happened. And we're back. We're jumping right into the lineups. Here we go. All right, Dan, lineup time.
Well, it was the magnificent Mendy between the sticks with Sarr, Christensen, and Chalobah as your back 3. We had a wingback situation of Ben Chilwell and Cesar Azpilicueta, captain, leader, Lacer, as well as Mateo Kovacic, N'Golo Kante, and Ruben Loftus-Cheek in the midfield with forward pairing of Romelu Lukaku and Timo Werner. Unused subs included Kepa Arrizabalaga, Marcus Alonso, Jorginho, Saul, Ross Barkley, and Callum Hudson-Odoi, and we saw Mason Mount, Kai Havertz, and Reece James all come off the bench.
Stacked lineup from Tuchel. Definitely some surprises in there, but it led to 56% possession away. It led to 5 shots, 1 on target. That's Chelsea, by the way. Brentford, 17 shots, 7 on target. We had 540 passes there, 405. We had 20 tackles there, 16. This is a real number. We had 41 clearances to their 13. To be fair, it took us 3 clearances to get it out of the box, so that kind of actually makes sense. 5 corners to their 5, 4 offsides to their 1, a yellow card apiece, and 8 fouls conceded to their 13. And then just for sugar on top, Kaylee_graphics with the XG map. 1.5 for Brentford and 0.3 for Chelsea. So
clinical.
Joe... a lot of things get hooked onto there. Where do you want to start?
The 41 clearances, I think that's an insanely high number. Thinking back on the game, yeah, that seems quite accurate. But the last 15, 20 minutes when kind of Brentford switched sort of the style of play, I think that's pretty insane, and probably the XG as well. This sort of feels a little bit in terms of how this Chelsea are kind of built to take sort of very, kind of rare opportunities in the game and then sort of see the rest of the sort of the performance out. I think this is another, I can't remember, there was another game where we had quite low XG and the team, the opponent outperformed us. It seems to be a little bit of a theme this year. But yeah, again, in terms of, the XG gods and trends and the people who really like analytics, I think we're kind of sort of fighting against that at the moment, top of the league. We probably haven't really been that dominant in terms of XG numbers or sort of certainly outperforming other teams. I have a concern about how sustainable this sort of output is in terms of trying to take that sole opportunity. And again, it wasn't a particularly easy chance that Chilwell converted. So yeah, I think probably the XG and just those clearance numbers also stand out. And one very, very quick point, 13 fouls conceded for Brentford and 1 yellow card. I felt certainly first half they were really tactically fouling Chelsea whenever we had some slight opportunities to counter and to stretch our legs a bit. referees seemingly are not punishing those as much as we've seen in seasons gone by. So again, in terms of trends and things to look out for, I think that is an interesting number, because I would expect Brentford to have maybe 2 or 3 yellow cards in the game. And again, that allows them to sort of put the pressure on and have that final 20-minute salvo where they are, able to foul when we're sort of trying to get out of there and actually sort of keep the pressure on us in that respect.
I mean, I just quickly add to this that, like, you'd be fine to forget that we dominated the first 60 minutes of this match and cruised, right? Just absolutely cruised. We lived in their half. They couldn't get out, and all the pressure was on their goal mouth. However, we absolutely have just lost any offensive flow when we hit the box again. It's reminiscent of when Tuchel got here, that there's no link between the midfield. Kovacic didn't do a good job of that. Mount didn't do a good job of that when he came on. And so it really doesn't bode well for Lukaku or Werner or Havertz or whoever starts in those kind of forward positions, because we were dominant enough to score 3-4 goals in that first period and just absolutely couldn't do it. And that's when you look at the .03, I mean, if Chilwell doesn't hit that, we're probably losing this game.
It's the quality of the final ball, though, Nick. I mean, those, I don't necessarily want to pick Kovacic out, but it felt yesterday that he was having one of those games where, he could have been passing against nobody defensively and still might not have actually found a Chelsea player. There was a number of times, probably both he and Kante, where they were driving forward with the ball, probably Cov a bit more prominent, where that final pass to actually set up an opportunity or to actually put us in a dangerous position, it just didn't arrive. And that seems to be one of the themes of the season, is that we can kind of work ourselves into that sort of pre-opportunity where we're in a good area of the pitch. But either if the delivery from wide, whether it's the pass or the disguise or the creativity from central areas, the ability to play that final pass, that seems to have completely disappeared. Even in the area, I think Werner and Lukaku, there's absolutely zero chemistry between the pair of them. And you can kind of see that in the way we're playing. So I'm not entirely sure how you rectify that from a Tuchel perspective, because if we are kind of built for this sort of low volume but high efficiency style of football, you need players to execute when they get the opportunities to play that final pass, to actually impact the game and have a positive influence on the game. But yesterday, it just felt like time and time again, we would see a mishit pass, a poorly directed pass, people not necessarily spotting a run of Lukaku, and it's becoming a little bit of a theme of the style of play. So that, however you rectify that from a Tuchel standpoint, I think is going to be one of the biggest questions that he has for the rest of the season. But it's not something that I feel is sustainable. You cannot continue to misplace passes, to mishit passes, to underhit, to overhit, to not recognise the runs of strikers, because, as you say, 0.3 XG, over the course of a season, that is not the sort of sum of chances that's going to put Chelsea in the contention for a title.
Absolutely not. I mean, and that's the point I wanted to make, is that you have this weird confluence of better talent than last year and less flow, which is odd to see. Yeah. I mean, it just doesn't really stack up, and it does, to your points that you've made earlier on this podcast for our loyal listeners who listen to every episode. I mean, we basically sold out in attack those first 60 minutes yesterday. I mean, Ruben was gathering the ball from deep, but N'Golo was up near the box. I mean, there was really no midfield to speak of. Him and Kovacic were up there yesterday. So, I mean, it was a little odd, but it also proves your point, Joe, that we don't need 3 midfielders and 5 defenders behind the ball. Like, we need players to get forward clearly. Yeah. And I think there's still a huge role to play for some of our missing number 10 type players.
Yeah, I agree.
Because clearly what we have going on right now isn't going to get the job done. I mean, 5 shots, 1 on target, Brandon, not good enough.
Well, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about here in the first part. But I guess real quick to wrap on the kind of lead-ins that we had is the one random stat from @OptaJoe7. Chelsea are the first side from the capital to win 7 consecutive away London derbies in English Football League history. Ownership, so unimportant.
London is blue.
Unimportant stat, but we'll take it. Just another shit-talking point.
It's almost as if we named our podcast a certain something for a reason.
Prescient.
Yeah, that's only gotten stronger and stronger. And then lastly, the NVPET shithouse moment of the match.
Look, Trevoh Chalobah had an interesting day yesterday against Tony from Brentford, who I was pretty impressed with. By the way, I hadn't seen him play a whole lot, but I was pretty impressed. He has a good mix of speed and physicality. But him and Trevoh got into it a number of times, and there was one moment in the box that I think Trevoh's on the back foot, a little bit of an arm across, but not enough to really call that a penalty, and Tony was offside anyway. But Tony kind of looked a little defeated after that moment, like he didn't get his one against Trevoh. So big up to Trevoh for just sticking in there and battling yesterday. It was not his best day.
I'm surprised it wasn't Ruben Loftus-Cheek, like destroying a man and basically causing like a 5-minute delay in the first half.
Oh, you're right, because he ran into him with his...
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I thought that was the one.
I totally forgot about that. That's a good shout.
I mean, that's just like men amongst boys versus this was clearly more shenanigans. Because like in midfield, Trevoh and him got mixed up. And anyways, it's...
well, I mean, that dude just ran into a brick shithouse is what we'd like to say in the United States. I mean, Ruben is probably 4 or 5 inches taller and just wider. Yeah, don't do that, kids.
All right. We're going to take our ad break, but when we get back, it's all about how Brentford frustrated Chelsea, talking about our attack or lack thereof. So thanks to the sponsors for financially supporting the show, and we'll be right back. All right, so coming out of the break, we do want to thank Elliot, Daniel, Christopher, Monty, and Rohan for joining us on Patreon. We're excited to have you in the family. Get on Discord. I think most of you have gotten there already. And then, look, more pods this week, as always. We got the Chelsea women doing the Juve and mailbag recap. Then we'll be doing the Malmo match review this week. And then obviously looking ahead at Norwich at the weekend. So full flow. International break is officially over. Back to 4+ pod weeks per usual. So the first one was how Brentford frustrated Chelsea. And we had started to get into this, I think, a little bit. Joe, you're talking about the attack, the lack thereof, the passes, the failed kind of the failed opportunities that we had to create really good goal scoring chances. So I guess we can pose the question to the group, and I can start with Dan, is what did Brentford do to make life tough for Chelsea, or was it due to personnel shape changes from the Chelsea side? So are you leaning more towards Chelsea didn't do enough, or Brentford did their role today in frustrating the current champions of Europe?
Well, Brentford played extremely well. Like that is something that we have to underline it again and do it a third time. Like it's on your study notes where you had to basically underline it multiple times because you knew the question was 100% going to be asked on the test. Brentford came to play and did exactly what they wanted to do, which was to frustrate Chelsea, get tons of men defending their box, weather the initial storm, and then start to come at Chelsea. I think the tactical fouling that Joe talked about was absolutely happening. They were looking for any way to disrupt Chelsea were doing. We didn't give them really a midfield for them to have to worry about. So they were able, when they were able to advance the ball forward, had joy. And look, if they were not unlucky, Mbembo had 2 shots go off the post, they could have been rewarded for the way that they played and the diligence they had within the execution of their plan. They came at Chelsea the right way in terms of frustrating our momentum so we can never get that kind of consecutive, possession and time on the ball neck that we've seen where, our team likes to slow down at times, to find their rhythm, to build up 5, 6, 7 passes in a row, and then kind of launch the attack. And really, Brentford never gave us an opportunity to play the way that Tuchel has liked this team to execute.
Massive shouts to Brentford. I think they are way better than Manchester United. You want to talk about a team that I think can play with the big boys. It's these guys. They are tactically astute. Thomas Frank, clearly an excellent manager. Lee Dixon on the U.S. coverage wouldn't shut the fuck up about how great he was and how many tactical changes he was making in the match, but clearly he was doing that.
Look at him, Arlo. Look at him go down and look at the pad to look at this to change the tactics in the moment. Man, a coach never does that. Crazy.
No. Well, to be fair to him, I think these guys are an easy story to root for if you're a Premier League neutral, right? And if you're a commentator, this is a really nice guy who has brought this team up, doing it, how a lot of people would say the right way instead of, other teams that have recently gone about a different type of path to success. So, look, I mean, it's just a huge credit to them. They clearly started off one way. We're getting beaten up and then changed how they played in the second half. And I think, if you're a manager, that's all you can do is just throw your hands up and say, didn't get that right, but here's what we're going to do to change it. I mean, how many times have we given Thomas Tuchel credit for something like that? He deserves an equal amount of credit. They fucking battered us in the second half. I mean, it was not close. It's easy to ignore those first 60 minutes, like I said, Joe, earlier, but they absolutely came at us. They were not scared of us. And in fact, Chelsea looked scared for the final period.
Yeah, I think the two interesting things to me was, I think one thing to mention is around about 65, 70 minutes, I think Loftus-Cheek tailed off a bit. I don't think he's quite at the level of fitness that he would want to be to keep up that performance for 90 minutes. And I did note certainly on the Brentford coverage that I can't remember, one of their Danish players was commenting after the game, and he basically said how well Loftus-Cheek had played and how good he was and how difficult it was for him, to get the ball off him and how he could control the game. I think when he is, kind of maybe took the foot off the gas a tiny bit to maybe save some energy, that was when kind of Brentford came to the fore. And, the other that sort of coincided with him bringing on I think the guy's name is Marcus Forss. They brought in another forward, and very interesting. I think the point you make about them playing the right way is fascinating, because actually the way that they got back into the game, I think as you alluded to, Nick, was they started playing a bit more of sort of agrarian kind of football-y style. They're being very direct. Yeah. We saw the Rory Delap throw in, from yesteryear for Stoke coming into play, lots of crosses into the box, lots of direct balls. And, as much as I think when Brentford were trying to play how they normally play, I think rightly said, we were completely in control of the game in terms of controlling the game through possession. The possession stats bear that out, the number of passes we made, etc., bear that out as well. But when they sort of started playing more direct, I think that's when we found problems. The control, I think, in midfield, it kind of was a combination of cover going off and Ruben sort of fading a tiny bit, was when they started getting a foot on the ball in deeper areas in our half. And then it was the Alamo for the past sort of 15, 20 minutes of that game. Edward Mendy obviously coming to the fore with some absolutely sensational saves. I know Brandon is obviously our resident expert goalkeeper, but some of the saves, particularly I think from the overhead kick, was, I've seen that go in 99 times out of 100 really for most other goalkeepers. There probably is an argument to make at the moment on form. Mendy may be the best goalkeeper in the Premier League. He may be the best goalkeeper in the world on form. And I think performances like that are only going to continue to strengthen that narrative. But in terms of how Brentford sort of frustrated us and the game changed, for me it was just a combination of us in midfield. I think the energy levels dipped. I think the team looks tired. But I think quite a few teams in the Premier League look tired at the moment. Mm-hmm. And as you say, then Brentford going a lot more direct. Interesting that we had a very young backline. I'm happy that we came through the game in terms of the blocks and the clearance numbers, etc. But it was nice to see a Chelsea side have that ability, and it felt a little bit to me like the Blackburn game under Mourinho, first sort of time. So 04, 05, I think it might have been Blackburn away, where we held on, for 3 points, and it was a similar kind of performance in terms of like a rearguard action. So yeah, interesting game. Certainly the last 20 minutes were absolutely chaotic and not the good chaos and trophies that we typically associate with Chelsea. But a banana skin, I think, avoided, and certainly in terms of that 1-0 victory, when you look at how Liverpool struggled there and how other teams have struggled, maybe taking a step back and looking at it in that sort of context, those 3 points could be vital sort of come the end of the season, because I don't see a lot of teams going there and beating them and playing them off the pitch, because I think Brentford are a very, very good team.
Oh, I mean, Liverpool had a draw. That's
conceded 3 goals
result right there. Yeah, I mean, it's not like Arsenal lose 2-0, and again, this is a mid-table Arsenal team, but they get the cachet of the name. Like, this is a tough side to play. We talked about this in the preview. We're talking about it now, and we're going ad nauseum on it, because this is a team that is going to take points off of clubs. And yes, sometimes you have to be lucky on the day, Nick, but in general, like, this was also the team at times having the individual brilliant moments of brilliance to come up with the right result.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking, like, I kind of went back and forth, like, whether this was, something to be proud of or not proud of, right? I think you can do both. This team does have a history and a recent history of doing exactly what they did to close out the game yesterday. Just throwing everything you can in front of the goal, making sure that you're doing the best that you can to kind of avoid that siege. And so I'm proud of them, especially proud of that young backline for doing that. But I just don't understand how we lose kind of all impetus in the game. Like it is, it switched so clearly. I mean, it was like right around that 65-minute mark, that Joe referenced for Ruben is when the whole team just kind of started sinking. And I wonder if it's just because of the lack of goal output where they feel they should be comfortably up and they're not. And now they know they're in for a battle in the last 25, 30 minutes. And that has to just be disheartening, Joe. I mean, if you're the team, just understanding that you've done more than enough to be 2-3 goals up, and now you have to go defend for your lives.
I think the other thing, and just to touch on this briefly, is that I think when the momentum shifted in the game, there's absolutely no outlets up the pitch. It becomes a flat back five. You have 3 holding players. It's very difficult to shift momentum and to actually sort of try and reclaim the direction of the game, because you then have a tendency to start sitting deeper. None of the midfielders were breaking ahead of the ball. It was very much a 5 and a 3. And I do think a little bit of time, certainly in these kind of games, that, yes, obviously, we kept a clean sheet. I mean, how we kept a clean sheet pretty much through Mendy and some insane sort of penalty box defending. But I do feel that at times this system, when we're under pressure, it does invite and probably give confidence to your opponent, because we literally couldn't get out of our half at times because there were no outlets. And maybe, I don't necessarily think that the 3-4-3 or whatever, 3-4-2-1, whatever the shape is, that it's looked as fluid and looked as promising this season. But at least you've got 3 attacking players up there, and you've got that one more body. You've got a little bit more of a natural ability to play into wider areas, with the 2 number 10s being able to pull wider. So I just think a little bit that, I don't want to call it the negative, the system isn't necessarily negative, but I think, again, when you've got tired legs, when you've come back from an international break, when you can feel that momentum shift in the stadium. I think Ruben alluded to it, the fans played a big part in the sort of turnaround of the game, that you just have an inclination as a player to step back 10 yards, to be more defensive, to maybe not take as many risks. And then that last 20-minute period, majority of Brentford's players are not internationals. They've been at home during the international period. They're playing 1 game a week, etc. They're going to be very fresh and they're going to be very motivated. And I just think that it was sort of a combination of factors that saw us kind of almost sort of seed the game and just say, okay, we're going to line 5 on the edge of our penalty area. We're going to put 3 in front, and then we're just going to sort of see what sort of the direction of the game is. But I just feel a tiny bit at times that the system can allow teams to get a bit of a foothold when we're tired, and then there's very little that we can do. There's no catalyst thereafter for us to be able to sort of regain momentum or sort of retake the sort of the threshold of the game, because we just don't have the attacking numbers at times.
But I mean, Tuchel made the attempt, right? Positive substitutions to begin with, Mount and Kai coming on, didn't really do the business. And then you had to panic put Reece James in the 89th minute for some defensive help. By the way, Reece James is playing. Okay. Must have been a misdiagnosed high ankle sprain, or he is just an incredible not human being that is not afflicted by the pains of normal mere mortals like myself. So he went for it. As far as not just bunkering in, we tried to add those legs up front. Didn't really work. But if you want to talk about, are we worried about Timo Werner and Romelu Lukaku to help catalyst, or whatever the use of that word is, Dan, in this instance?
Oh, God.
Here's a visual to just show you. We pulled it from FB Ref, and it's the shots in sequential order, right? From 0 minute to 90 plus 6. Romelu Lukaku's only shot today was the free kick in the 17th minute. No other shots. All right. So he goes, Rom.
Does that count the offside skied ball into
Nope.
that wasn't hovering in space with Blue Origin somewhere?
So it goes Big Rom, Ivan Toney, and Buemo, and then Kova, Timo, Ben Chilwell, stunner of a goal, first half, right? I love it. Ben Chilwell will explain that. Then in the second half, Mateo Kovacic gets an off-target shot in the 48th minute. No shots for 15 minutes. Then
it goes out of the stadium, by the way.
73rd minute, it goes.
That one's in actual space, not just in low space orbit.
So here's the shot chart from there on. Brentford in the 73rd minute, Brentford 75, Brentford 75, Brentford 79, Brentford 80, Brentford 83, Brentford 84, Brentford 85, Brentford 86, Brentford 87, Brentford 90 plus 3, Brentford 90 plus 3, Brentford 90 plus 4, Brentford 90 plus 6. Those were shots.
Everybody.
Look, they had a party at that point. I mean, sometimes getting two shots off in the same minute.
What this is missing, because they don't count because they were offsides, is this also doesn't count the move for the Lukaku goal where he was offside, where there was
It's really poor by him, though. It's really poor by him.
It was poor. It was great that we got the ball out quick. And this is where we didn't do a good job of it consistently through the game, because Timo was there for the run. To go and battle. Mm-hmm. And Lukaku is not always making himself available or getting, being on the line at the right space to be able to kind of make that chemistry work. It's less of a catalyst. It's more a pairing of two items that you want to have synergy with, Brandon. And they do not have a synergy at the moment. And we are not playing them forward quickly enough to take advantage of where they can create space, where they can open up a team. Because if we can get that, Nick, that would be exceptional.
You got to play the ball fucking early. I mean, they're both. I really don't know what Lukaku's doing right now. That's the scary thing to me is we started off with this immaculate hold up play, Shaq in the box against a small center, right? That's the way that he started playing for Chelsea, and then he started making runs off of those movements. Now I just see him wandering around up top, kind of aimlessly, and I don't understand the pattern. Him and Timo tried to switch sides a couple of times yesterday. It didn't really work. But what's clear to me, Joe, is that we have to figure out how to play them the ball early, because to get them space in behind is probably our best shot at scoring right now, because nobody is finishing clinically except for Ben Chilwell. Yeah,
there are two interesting things on the disallowed goal. I mean, the first one being that is absolutely the way that you play Werner and Lukaku. You have to move the ball quickly, and I think, the reserved and very measured way that we build up at times, by the time that we arrive to the penalty area, I mean, teams are now putting 1 and 2 plus players on Lukaku. He isn't, I don't think he's particularly great. It's just, it's kind of the Man United version, this sort of static target man that we're seeing. Against Arsenal, I think we were a little bit more dynamic in terms of how we were playing and moving the ball. But currently, we're taking so many touches and playing so many lateral passes. But by the time we sort of get into a position that we're in the final third, Brentford had 5 people in across the width of their penalty area. They had a really, really good defensive setup in terms of their midfield numbers. It's incredibly difficult, I think, to then try and find Lukaku or Werner and ask them to basically be like a Sergio Aguero type who can maybe, or a Suarez who has that kind of control and ability to create out of nothing. And when you sort of compare that with the offside goal, that quick passing out, Werner in space, Lukaku running onto the ball instead of playing back to goal. We have to figure out ways to do that. We have to figure out ways to play in a slightly more, I think, direct manner, because we still, at the moment, in my opinion, we're playing with Romelu Lukaku up front like he is Kai Havertz, or like he is a false 9, or he is some sort of player other than the guy that that we've seen at Inter Milan. And the other little thing, and maybe this is a bit of a nod to the Brentford player here, but in terms of being offside, he got away with an absolute blatant two-handed push. He actually pushed Lukaku offside. It was such an Antonio Rudiger-esque thing for somebody to do. But, I think you'd have to sort of tip your hat off a tiny bit to the defender there, because it was pretty smart, and to actually get away with actually pushing somebody into an offside position was quite funny. But, that sequence of events that led to the chance, that is the style of play that will unlock Lukaku, that will probably give Timo Werner at least the opportunity to show whether he can sort of really establish himself at Chelsea, because this back-to-goal stuff, this really laboured and measured possession game, while, it retains possession and it keeps control, I don't think it's benefiting us, at all when it comes to attacking metrics. And, 5 shots, 1 on target against Brentford, where we had so much possession, and particularly in their half, Shows both a lack of creativity, a lack of goal in terms of passing, but also that you're probably completely misusing your centre forwards, which, I hope Tuchel will be able to rectify it. But I feel that we need an injection of pace in the team in terms of distribution, passing, ball movement, whatever it might be. But until that happens, you're going to get this situation where Lukaku, as you say, is just aimlessly wandering from being marked to being marked to being marked and not necessarily being able to receive the ball. And the one thing as well, just to finish this point off, teams have looked at that Arsenal game and they have now started to block off that passing lane into Lukaku. They don't want him to put his forearm into somebody and then, play side on and receive the ball, because that makes him dangerous. So, one very small tactical tweak that all teams have done now is to stop that passing lane, and then that forces Chelsea to do the lateral stuff that we've seen pretty much most of this season. And that's where we get into this laboured and very measured build-up without really the cutting edge or the quality to find that little moment of quality to break teams down. I think it's a repeating pattern that we're seeing quite regularly.
I mean, you bought him, Brandon, right?
Yeah.
You bought one of the world's best strikers. I think if you're Tuchel, you have to adjust the way that you're playing in the opposition third. It doesn't mean you have to change the entire system. It doesn't mean this, that, or the other thing. But I think you do have to change the way that you are attacking the opposition goal, because what's going on right now is not good enough for a player of his caliber.
Look, to me, it's the distribution. Man United, I don't remember which center back, hit a 60-yard long ball straight down the middle yesterday to Rashford, and he just went and scored, right? Yep. Like when Malang Sarr, I know we're going to give him some praise later, his distribution is terrible. He also doesn't know what to do when he's on the left side of that back three. He just kind of hoofed it forward and didn't really do anything. So Ruben on the turn would run. But the problem is most of his runs ended up with him getting tripped up or fouled, and then they get to reset. And so the momentum's gone. So while I appreciated Ruben's penetrating runs, nothing really came of it. And Kovacic does not offer that early pass, and neither does N'Golo. We know that Trevoh can do it. Christensen can play a dime ball too, but it's now we were relying on our right side and our central defender to play the dime ball, and we needed something closer, further up the field. And that's something that Liverpool have done exquisitely. They know how to release to space, whether it's Mane, Firmino, or Salah. But they'll get it at half field, knock it back to the middle because everyone runs apart with them, and then that's where we're moving. We didn't do that. Again, Brentford got behind the ball far too many times, and we struggled to break them down like many teams.
That's exactly right, though. I just watched the Salah goal from yesterday again, which was, it's just tremendous. Dude's just on one right now. But Liverpool pulls teams out of the box. It's something that we don't do. They pull people out. And you would think with the amount of width that we have with a wing back system and with, three forwards, that we would be able to pull out. But teams are not scared of us yet. And so they're not going. And all that means is that we have meaningless possession right out, outside of the corner flag, and our crossing's not good enough to capitalize on it. And so we're just kind of up shit creek without paddle.
To me, I was actually surprised. This felt like an opportunity to try and give Callum another shot, because we kind of had a chance to see him right before the end of the break. Anytime a break happens, it can really just, upset any type of momentum you're finding. But I think him and Chilwell on the left would have made Brentford more cautious about what was happening on the left. Because there was no goodness on the right. And if Chilwell doesn't float into a space that really a left wing back is not going to naturally be in, we don't have a goal. And so I think that's where if you had a threat on the left, you had a threat on the right, you had Lukaku up front, you would have, I think, made Brentford think a little bit more about where they need to defend against and found more of that kind of open opportunity.
All right. Well, we have to move this one along, but I think we definitely addressed a lot of the issues with the team. Now we can talk about some of the more positive things that happened. And his name is Ashley Cole. Ben Chilwell. Sorry.
Ashley Cold.
Stop it. Just stop it.
Let it breathe. Let it breathe. So, Squawka tweeting Ben Chilwell's game by numbers versus Brentford. 82 touches, 9 penalty area entries. Weird. 9 crosses, 8 duels won, 8 clearances, 4 tackles, 4 ball recoveries, 2 fouls won, a goal, and the damn match winner. Absolutely stroked that volley. You hit that
sweet
one, and it just is on a rope, is what we say, and it's just a laser beam. It feels great. Rippled the back of the net. Didn't have a chance. Dan, comparisons of Ashley Cole I see in the script.
Well, Ashley Cole, it's a joke nickname.
But clearly
one of
a
the many
reference
joke
to
nicknames.
a legendary player of Ashley Cole.
Oh my gosh.
Look at Joe in here.
Joe throwing in the frosted face emoji as well. Just look, it's chilly season. It's getting cold up here in Seattle.
Alon's
It's
who?
getting cold in London, and Ben Chilwell is 3 for 3 in club and international games in a row for scoring, and he's got the hot feet, as it were. So credit to him for coming back in, finding his moment, and really placing the ball, just the technical skill on that goal. And also the hey, I'm here. Please pass to me. Please pass to me on the edge of the box. I'd really like an opportunity with no one in the 3-meter space around me to get the ball and serve it into goal, please.
What is going on with the left backs of this team? This is right on cue, Nick. Mid-October, Alonso had a great start of the season. He's even in La Selección for Spain. Ben Chilwell is just guys, this is my time. This is how it works. It's my position now, and he's just going out.
Look at me,
banging
Look
in
at
goals. This is. I don't get how this works with Chelsea. This is one of the funny things. I just don't understand why Chelsea's left back does this every time.
It's called competition. It's what we need to be successful. It's what every great team has, and when you're not playing and you see the other guys playing really well, the other guy being Marcos Alonso, if you're Ben Chilwell, it makes you up your game because you have to if you want to play. And then you play really well, and then the other guy ups his game. And you're going to see that throughout the season. I mean, my hope, and I think our hope since we started this podcast is that we have 11 positions within the team that are consistently going through that level of scrutiny, because it means that we're going to likely have better performances because of it. And Chilwell, was our best offensive player yesterday, and it wasn't close. I mean, if we're being honest about it, his runs into the box were way better than anything that Werner or Lukaku did. And, his goal was obviously tremendous, but he was all over the place. He was tracking all the way back. He was doing some of the dirty defending, Joe, in the box. I mean, this was a really top performance from him.
I love that statistic, by the way. 9 penalty area entries. I have arrived in the penalty area recorded for statistics. It's just ridiculous. But yeah, exactly. Yeah. I just think he's playing really well at the moment. He kind of ended the season last season, I think, as one of Chelsea's best players. Had some really big moments, I think, for us as a club, but started to probably show why we paid the money for him towards the end of that season, particularly. As somebody who is a natural left back, the way that he can actually play very, well as a wing back is a testament, I think, to how good he is a player. But he kind of lost his place, or didn't really get an opportunity with England for what felt like very strange reasons.
That was bullshit.
Absolutely. And now I would say as well, he's completely outplaying Luke Shaw at club level again, as he was at the back end of last season. And he loses his place to Marcos Alonso because, Alonso didn't go with Spain over the summer, and Alonso's playing particularly well. So he's kind of in this weird place mentally and physically, because he's not playing. He hasn't played for ages. He's lost his position in, for England and for Chelsea. And yet the response that we've seen, particularly, I thought yesterday, he was absolutely superb. I think beyond maybe, Ruben's first sort of 65, 70 minutes, I think Chilwell was probably the best Chelsea outfield player, both in terms of what he adds from an attacking perspective, but also defensively as well. He made some really, really good challenges, particularly towards the end of the game. But it's just nice to see, I think, as was alluded to here, that the competition for that particular spot is probably as strong as it has been in a long while, and I think it's raising the game of both Alonso and Chilwell to try and take that starting jersey. But really, I think a really, really top display for him. The stats obviously bear that out in terms of how he played, but the goal as well. I think we we've seen the technical ability that he's had. He's scored some pretty decent goals for Chelsea in terms of technical sort of displays of that insane left foot that he has. But yeah, I mean that is that's the difference in the entire game, is the quality of the strike from Chilwell versus maybe obviously the fact that we had Mendy and some of the slightly more erratic finishing from Brentford when it compares. But it's great to see him playing well, and I think he looks like he's enjoying his football as well. But that position, I think it's going to be interesting to see again how that develops over the season, because Alonso is playing well for Spain, playing well for Chelsea. Chilwell has come now back to the sort of level and ability we saw back end of last year. It's going to be fascinating, but I thought he was excellent, and probably, as I said, probably one of in the top sort of 3 outfield performers for Chelsea, certainly in the game.
Well, it was fantastic. Great finish. Again, I've been pretty vocal on Twitter that Gareth Southgate has been unbelievably harsh on Ben Chilwell, and for lack of better options, the fact that he's playing Trippier in his position is just stupid. Anyways, so happy for Chile B. Again, we sat in the Champions League final on his side in the second half, so we watched him run himself physically into the ground, was cramping, continuing to run, got out, defended the crosses, made it hard for City. So I know our group especially just has so much love for Chile B because of that Champions League final we saw. But again, it was earned, and he grew into this team. Last year was, he's a left back that has to learn left wing back. Okay, fine, figured it out. And then this season, after the England stuff, it didn't really go off for him, and Alonso started on fire. But again, he's starting to find his footing and some stability, and we see just how good he can be, which is exciting, obviously. Chalobah, the other name that we have here, Chalobah the Younger, as Dan wrote. I'm just going to read it like I know what that means. An @expected Chelsea tweet saying 8 passes into the final third, 5 tackles, 4 recoveries, 2 passes into box. I'm going to assume that's their box, not ours. 2 blocked shots and 2 clearances, one of them being off the line, which was
exceptional,
exciting to say the least. An assured display, including an awesome goal line clearance. Again, Trevo maybe getting a little distracted with Ivan Toney, but I think that everyone would. He wasn't the one I was concerned about. I think in all, we didn't really talk about this, but the inability for the back line to really attack things and clear the ball quickly. I think Trevor let a couple go over his head that he misjudged. But again, overall, I wouldn't say he had a bad game by any means, Nick.
No, I mean, it was just a tough one for him, and he'll have more of these, right?
Hopefully.
You have to understand, these are his first Premier League minutes, real Premier League minutes, and he's coming up against people who want to eat his lunch, and he's so far so good, right? A couple of blemishes here or there, but playing against Ollie Watkins, playing against Ivan Toney, playing against some of the Premier League's best as a young player, I think will make him a better defender. And the fact that he keeps getting chances tells me that he's doing the right stuff in training. So, I'm really happy for him, and I'm happy, obviously, that he had the wherewithal to get back on the line to take that chance away from Brentford. I think that showed a lot of maturity.
So, Joe, I'm interested in what you thought about Malang Sarr. Statman Dave tweeting the numbers against Brentford for Sarr, saying 86 total touches, 86% pass accuracy, 75% aerials, won 10 clearances, 6 interceptions, 4 attempted tackles, 3 of them being successful, a block. He said it was a really solid performance. What did you think about Malang Sarr? I think he was probably the biggest surprise on the team sheet.
Yeah, I think the comment about him being solid, I think that's pretty fair. There's a couple of things at play here. You are asking a player who hasn't kicked a ball in the Premier League to come in and fill in, for Antonio Rudiger, who is arguably the best centre-back in the division at the moment, certainly in terms of form. And in terms of Tuchel's team selections, is one of maybe the only absolute out-and-out mainstay when it comes to people that are going to play in that role. So you've got incredibly big fields this year in that respect. I don't think necessarily he's the most comfortable on the left side. And I think, again, when we're talking about, building up play and playing at pace, if you don't have the ability to open up and use your left foot on that side of the pitch, it really can limit certainly the way that you sort of build up from the back. I think defensively he was fine. He's maybe a bit undersized, and I think potentially you'll see a lot of young French centre backs maybe don't have, I don't want to say natural defensive instincts, but they don't necessarily, or they haven't necessarily been brought up with that sort of penalty box style defending and having to make loads of challenges and having to make loads of blocks. They're very good on the ball. They're very athletic. They read the game very well. But I don't think necessarily that he would have been brought up in sort of that kind of Premier League mould of play. Made a lot of key blocks. I think there was a couple of good challenges as well, nice and aggressive. But the sort of the difference between how I saw a lot of socials react to his selection, like he was some sort of competition winner, rather than a guy who's played an awful lot of football in France and playing for Porto, etc. I think it was fine. You could tell that there was a lack of, I would say, authority and maybe experience in the back line. I do think at times that we did miss Rudiger and probably to extent Silva in those last 20 minutes. But Sarr was part of a rearguard action that was very successful, made some good challenges, some good blocks. Surprisingly, actually won a fair number of headers, considering he's fairly undersized for a Premier League centre back as well. So generally, I think he played pretty well. I think he was pretty solid. And in terms of debuts, I think he can be happy with that. I don't necessarily think that he's going to be the future of the position. And if we're looking at Rudiger possibly departing from Chelsea, I'm not sure if I would say that Sarr has the ability to step in and be that guy. But in terms of deputising for this specific game, I don't think you have any qualms about his performance. I think he did more than well, and certainly I think in terms of contributing to the clean sheet, definitely in those last 15-20 minutes, definitely helped the team see the game out.
Way better than his preseason performances.
He was,
I mean, this. I think we got to give him more credit than just fine. Like, I thought he was aware. I thought he was alert to Brentford trying to attack behind him when they got the opportunity. And I think he was fine on set pieces. Again, you're talking about an undersized guy. This is not, going up against Janssen or whatever, who has 6 inches on him. I mean, it's not an easy task. And so, I was really pleased for him. I'm kind of surprised at the muted tones around this. Like, I expected very little, and I think he had probably a better overall game than Trev did.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we want to be real about it, that's kind of how I feel.
Oh, according
to
Transfer Market, he is left-footed, so maybe that is on me. But I still thought his distribution was poor. But his ability to attack across and his ability to throw an attack on stand a defender up, I think his 1v1 defending was really good. So. Maybe we'll see more. Obviously, he's played all the minutes in the Carabao Cup, so I'm assuming that's where you continue to see most of him. So the last one we want to touch on is obviously the beautiful human being that is Edouard Mendy, the amazing goalkeeper who is absolutely snubbed in this massive list of Ballon d'Or footballers. But anyways, there's some funny things in here, Dan. I mean, we don't really need to get too technical when you can just enjoy and appreciate all the posts surrounding Mr. Mendy.
Well, I like the Ben Chilwell interview after the match was great. He talked about it being hell on earth for the last 20 minutes and was effusive in his praise and very complimentary. The fact that Mendy is the reason that they ended up with a win today, not the goal that he scored. And then our friend Phil at Chelsea Youth with the Jordan meme with Mr. Mendy's face over Jordan's with the "and I took that personally." Clearly, the Ballon d'Or snub for the world's best goalkeeper at the moment on current form. Look, it was just great. He had an exceptional outing. He put his face into it, literally. Whoa. He definitely got big when needed, and he's a big man to begin with. So just absolutely impressive. The shot he pushed up and over was phenomenal. I don't know. You can't be effusive enough in praise for what he was able to accomplish in this match. And you look at the fact that a year ago or even 2 years ago, it was like, what are we going to do about Kepa? How are we going to get, maybe someone like Donnarumma? And, this was a situation where the club did great work in bringing in someone who looks ready to be the goalkeeper until he is done, until he wants to hang up the gloves, as it were, which is a really nice thing to have.
So... yeah, he made some saves, but the fact that he made 5 saves from shots that were taken inside the box, that is a problem. That is not good if they're shooting inside the box. And for him to have made 5 saves from all 5 shots inside the box is amazing. He was so quick off his line to come out and close the angles on all of those shots. And again, to get the fingertip reflexes, to get that bicycle overhead kick just off the crossbar and in. I know they hit each post once, which was massive for us that, helped obviously in the end. But he's got more clean sheets than goals against in the league so far this season. And that is unbelievable. It is so, so good. I mean, Nick, there's stats here from Opta and everything, but like Mendy is just standing up to every single test, and he has to be considered one of the top in the world.
I mean, yeah. Look at him. I mean, I was so impressed. I mean, those goal mouth scrambles yesterday, which was basically, it seemed like the last 20 minutes or 20 years, depending on how long it felt to you. I mean, you have to be, I would just assume, I'm not a goalkeeper, obviously, but you just have to be so alert and a little lucky, to come out of that without a blemish. And I think the fact that he was able to close down angles in space so effectively is just a huge credit to him. And then, obviously we got the big old celebration at the end, Brandon. So I just want to pass it back to you and let you wax poetic about your boy, because there were times last year where he would, the team would get a clean sheet and he could, have camped out and had a picnic because there weren't any shots coming in. He's earning them this year. I mean, these are not these are clean sheets that have his number 16 all over him.
What's kind of funny? A double standard out there. You sign Kai Havertz, you sign Lukaku, you sign Timo Werner. You're like, hey man, it's probably going to take him a year to settle. But don't worry, after that year of you playing them, they're going to be banging them in. Not a goalkeeper, no shot. Day one, you're either on it or you're not. Right? And there's no transition time. There's no settling period. David De Gea did need a settling period because he couldn't catch a cross to save his life. But Opta Joe tweeting the fact that Edouard Mendy kept his 20th Premier League clean sheet out of 38 starts in the Premier League puts him in company with Petr Cech, who did it in 26 matches. Pepe Reina,
insane, by the way.
Yeah, but that will probably never be broken. Pepe Reina, 32 matches. Allison, 36. And Roy Carroll, anyone remember that name? Took him 37. The fact that he's in a group of these top Premier League goalkeepers after such a short stint, only his 38th start, he's had to hit the ground running. He has to be a rock from day one. And he has been. Like the moment that Frank got him in late last year after a lot of the other transfers have been done, it was so worth it. And he's gone from strength to strength to strength to strength. And while, yes, Tuchel's done a good job at revitalizing Kepa, no one wants to see anyone but Edouard Mendy in goal for Chelsea. And again, he came from like Ligue 1 in France, from like a kind of an average team.
That's my point. It's almost as if having people who know football and know footballers in the front office is a good thing. Because Joe, you could have potentially seen Chelsea go in the let's buy the most expensive goalkeeper possible mode, right?
Again,
as we've done before, and they didn't, because Big Pete knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I think that this hopefully eventually will give Petr Cech some pretty significant influence when it comes to Chelsea's recruitment. I know that he was a really big fan of Aurelien Tchouameni in the summer. Others at the club were not as keen on him as a player. He's now looking like he's going to become a central point of that France midfield. And again, he's played fantastic this season. So maybe Petr knows a little bit more about football than some guys at the club. That's me being bitter, because I would have liked Tchouameni here. But, hopefully in January or in the summer. But bringing it back to Mendy. I struggle to think of a goalkeeping performance from a Chelsea player, and I'm going back to Czech here as well, that was as significant in winning a very difficult fixture as what Mendy showed yesterday. And, these weren't just sort of routine run-of-the-mill saves. There were some one-on-ones. The one that, hit him basically in the face. Again, that sort of Schmeichel technique of spreading yourself and making yourself as big as possible, safe from the overhead kick. I think the last shot that I think hit the post, I actually think somebody said he tipped it onto the post as well, which didn't seem to get picked up in the commentary in the UK at least. So I just think he's just an absolutely wonderful, wonderful player. And, we can talk about maybe the worth of the Ballon d'Or and having 7 billion nominations for players. I think even my barista at my local coffee shop actually made the list at the bottom for his Sunday League team recently. But the fact that the first African goalkeeper to win the Champions League, to be such a significant player in that title, and actually just how well he's played, is not nominated for the award, I think certainly lessens the list or being nominated a tiny bit in terms of the sort of gravitas and the I suppose the prestige that comes with it. But just an absolutely superb goalkeeper. And in terms of, I said a little bit earlier in the show, in terms of form, he might be the best goalkeeper on the planet at the moment. Certainly performances like that are only going to continue to push him in that conversation. But while Alisson is he injured or is COVID or there's something going with Alisson at Liverpool, I also don't think he's been quite as good as what he was when he first came. I think you've got every right in suggesting that Mendy might be the best keeper in the Premier League just anyway, in terms of how he's playing. So, fantastic, obviously, spot from Petter, a club that he would have known very well. I think he probably obviously has an incredible eye for goalkeepers and talent in that respect as well. But, in terms of what we pay for Kepa, and this isn't a dig at Kepa, but just to put it in the right context, what we pay for Mendy, I mean, you'd be happy to pay 50 mil for him as a goalkeeper, and you'd be more than happy with that as a fee. I think it's a great piece of business for the club, and he looks like the long-term answer. Doesn't look like he's going to be slowing down anytime soon. And I would like him to see, I'd like to see him tested less in games. It's fantastic when he plays incredibly well and makes all these saves, but I'd love to go in games where we win 2-0 and he literally has to maybe pick up the ball once or twice because it's fallen back to him or whatever. But hopefully continues this sort of form, because that type of goalkeeping performance and that type of goalkeeping quality, that can be the difference between winning titles and not. So I think we've got a title-winning caliber goalkeeper, and long may that continue.
That's the other point though too, Brennan.
Absolutely,
it's now a mental thing for every other team that comes against them this year. They know that they're going to have to do something spectacular to beat someone of his caliber, and it's a superpower that you have that you just need to flex. That even if our defense is not playing as well as maybe we'd expect them to, you're going to have to do something crazy to beat this guy.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It's massive. Look, a good team or a good goalkeeper, can help a team. A great goalkeeper, it's miles difference, and I think that's what we've seen. So that's why the Dan of the match is what it is, Dan.
Well, yeah, you look. Apologies to Ben Chilwell, who scored the goal, but it couldn't be anyone else other than 4 options for Mendy. And no surprise, Mendy wins in a landslide, 100% of the vote. So wonderful news.
All right, well, the league table as it stands, we're recording during the Newcastle-Tottenham match. Big relegation battle, 6-pointer right there. But it does look like Tottenham's in the lead. So as it stands, this is Tottenham 2, Newcastle 1, where we're at. So Chelsea, top of the table, 19 points, continuing that. And a draw wasn't going to do it because Liverpool beat the shit out of Watford. So goal difference is gone for now. So 19 points on first, Liverpool in second on 18 points. Man City in third on 17 points. Brighton in fourth on 15 points. But right now, Tottenham are in fifth, level on points with them at 15 as well. United, sixth on 14. West Ham, 7th, 14. Everton, 8th, 14. And then Brentford, 9th on 12. And the bottom three as it stands are Burnley in 18th with 3 points. Newcastle, 19th with 3 points. But a shiny new owner. And Norwich City last with 2 points. Finally getting a couple draws, points on the board for them. Can
I just say about the Manchester United-Leicester game? Manchester United are not title contenders. They can add all the attacking talent they want. That team is flat out not good enough to compete with City, Liverpool, and Chelsea. They're going to get the doors blown off them next week. It's going to be bad.
Personnel-wise, they can. Tactically, they are set up shockingly. Joe, Leicester's down in 11th, which is a bit of a surprise. Villa's down in 12th. Arsenal 13th.
Can you say that one more time? It didn't come through clearly.
But to see those teams down there, but again, Brighton in fourth, super exciting. I mean, this is going to be an interesting season. I think when everything shakes out at the end, we used to say, hey, you've got the top 4 locked in, United slipping, Tottenham pretending to make a run, here late, but it's like really only the top 3 are locked. It feels like.
I'll be honest. I think whoever finishes above Liverpool, I think they're going to win the title. And it might be a little bit of recency bias looking at how they absolutely, I think you're right, they absolutely bullied Watford. It was one of the worst performances I've seen from a team with a new manager that I can actually ever remember at any level of football. And the only other thing that would be really nice to see, if Newcastle get relegated, that would make me incredibly happy.
$300 million relegation.
Be absolutely insane. I mean, the only real takeaway from the title, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here, the league at the moment is that we've not played particularly well at all this season.
No.
And I do fully expect Tuchel to figure it out at some point. And when we do, if we are in touch with Liverpool, if we're still above them, then that's going to be tricky for the rest of the league. So, I mean, I want to maintain positivity. I said I don't think we've played maybe a complete performance this season, yet we are 1 point ahead of them. And I do expect Tuchel is a good enough coach, and not just good enough, he's one of the best, probably the best coach in world football at the moment. If he does, figure it out, and I do expect him to, then the pressure from Liverpool and City, I mean, they're going to be chasing a team that has so much, to get out of this entire squad. So it's going to be tricky for those guys. I mean, yes, Liverpool and City are fantastic, but so are Chelsea. That's the thing. When we start playing and when things click, I'm hoping that we can pull away from these teams.
I was going to say that too. That yesterday's result was a warning shot to everybody because we didn't play well, and then all of the Chelsea are so boring.
Five in the back, 3 points.
because they fucking know that we're not playing well, and we're just fine. Like, I mean, that was the meme that you put out, Joe. Like, just unbelievable. Like that. It was one of those like crystallizing moments yesterday. I was like, oh yeah. People are looking at us like we're the favorites. Like that's how it's looking right now.
We're just over a fifth of the way through the season, and we're in top position, a point ahead, having played some of our toughest fixtures for the entire season, and not played consistently for 90 minutes in a single match.
It's going okay.
And haven't had a fully healthy squad yet either.
Yeah.
So are we feeling good about that? Because I'm feeling great about that.
I think that has to be the takeaway. Yeah, I think because we have such high expectations of what this team can do, that sometimes performances like yesterday, particularly like a day removed, you feel not down on them, but you feel a little bit like we should be doing better. But the reality, when you take a bigger step back and you look at the league table, you look at who we've played, you look at coming out of the Euros, looking at all the international players we have, but we're in a really strong position. And this team realistically can only improve for the rest of the season. Liverpool, they're playing well, but I'd be hard pressed to say that they can sustain that for another 30 games. Whereas we probably will play, we should be looking to play better. So, yeah, I mean, it has to be a positive spin for me at least, because I think, as you say, we've played some tricky games and we've got so much more to come from this team. I think it's really positive at this point in the season.
We do have to figure it out, though.
We 100% do, yeah. Yeah, if we don't figure it out, it's going to be a struggle. We can't keep, getting one chance at scoring and winning games. But then that is where you lean into Tuchel's quality as a coach. I expect him to figure it out, and I do think, as was mentioned, having a fully fit squad will actually help that transition in terms of us starting to play a lot more like a team that can win the league rather than somebody who is at the moment top of the table.
Like us. At the top of the table, where we're going to end it, because why not end on a big old positive? So, hey, we got Norwich coming up at the weekend, but between that, we've got Champions League fixture with Malmo. So plenty of football to happen. We need healthy players so we can rotate and get minutes across different matches. Top teams playing a lot of competition. So anyways, let us know how we did. Jump on Discord. Let's talk about this for the Monday drop, Women Tuesday, and then a couple more pods throughout the week. So hope you enjoyed it. But until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.